Alrighty, good morning everybody. It's Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Let's go ahead and jump on back to yesterday, see what happened. We were obviously stuck in this whipsaw up and down for the last couple days. Good clues for the bulls from the lows coming into the open yesterday, despite obviously all the bearishness from the all-time high. But pretty decent bullish signals from the lows. And again, we came down and held that major structure zone, right? Our scaffolding level nearly to the tick, and started to launch out of there in that overnight session coming into yesterday morning. And as you can see, coming out of the open, what do you know? First roadmap level is the resistance for that push. We get the pullback, and then the bulls defend the 200 moving average, right? You've actually defended it nearly to the tick on that first test. Of course, they had to peak below a little bit, and then we got this pop higher. So a little bit choppy there, but the main gist here is we had the pullback off 50% of last week's level, and then we had the bounce off of the 200 for the continuation to the upside. So on the way up there, as you can see, actually a nice pullback right to 50% of yesterday. Came up a little bit further, and then what do you know? The biggest pullback of the morning after the pullback out of the open there was right off our next roadmap level. So it came up, got a nice bearish divergence from there, and we got another travel right back to the 200 moving average. And what do you know? 50% of last week, which was the morning resistance, right? And that's where they pushed from all night, right? All through the overnight they pushed, came right to 50% of last week, pulled back, broke out from there, holding the 200, and then came right back and gave it a nice little kiss to continue going. So, and then, you know, in a general sense, was holding the 200 that whole time, right? So there was that peak right into it, held the 200, and then we got this continuation to the upside. Again, pretty aggressive push out, holding the fast moving average the whole way up. And then we got a pretty healthy pullback, only to bounce right off the previous resistance from the morning, which was our roadmap level, and in this case, bounce to the very tick right off of it. And then we had, it wasn't quite a nice straight push higher. They did have to come right back and almost tag right back into 50% of last week before the next rally higher. From there, you can see very aggressive, right? So they just held the fast moving average the whole way up. They did try to kind of peter out here right around the 200, but popped out, pulled back, and held the 200 to start rallying back up. We got another hiccup in the market right at that next major scaffolding area where it tested and tested and tested and tested, and then finally we got the continuation to the upside. And then I believe what happened was the market failed just in front of the high of the day before there to close the day out on this little micro pullback right back to that major scaffolding area. So if you ask me, some pretty impressive rotations yesterday, quite literally to the tick off some of these roadmap levels, and you can see all the major rotations all being right off of either a scaffolding or a support and resistance or one of our moving averages. So pretty good stuff. That brings us here into the overnight session where once again, we have our pullback. There's the tag of the 200. Comes on down, gets down through the VWAP, comes all the way down, and then the major rotation in the overnight session right back to that scaffolding level, right? So yeah, duck through by maybe a point, maybe 2 points max, and then a couple ticks here, and then to the tick, just a couple, maybe an hour or two ago, kissed it to the tick, and now here we are trying to push higher. Come back up to not only yesterday's high, but then the day before that's high was just a couple points above there. And as you can see, beautiful 38 retrace as we try to push up. And what do you know, and I didn't even plan this, the 27 extension of this very fib leg here is right to the high of the day before. Magic. So that's the review for the last day and a half. Let's go ahead and jump up to the high time frames and see what they have to say for this morning.